Hello, my name is Matthew, and today's talk is going to be securing OpenVSX. Theia is not an island. If you look at the slides, you will see that the presenters are both me, Matthew Khouzam, and Ankush Tyagi. We are having some minor technical difficulties, so he might be joining in halfway through the talk. Don't be surprised if you find someone much more handsome either under or on top of me soon. Next slide, please. Oh, I can do it. Okay. So here is the agenda for today. We want to first talk about who we are. We want to describe the problem that we are facing. And we want to then look at what OpenVSX is and how it can help solve this problem. Next up, we want to talk about what needs to be done and if we can leverage FOSS to take advantage of that to help get things done. Finally, we want to detail the next steps. If you have joined at the Eclipse Con talk, the Theia Community Day, this talk is similar. However, the slides are very updated as more information has been made available. So first off, who are we? Now, I'm Matthew. I am from Canada. I've worked in free and open source software for most of my career, and I would like to highlight the favorite part of my career. I have the privilege of being on the board of directors for the Eclipse Foundation. I am a committer representative. I am a product owner within Ericsson for Theia, Trace Compass, OpenVSX once the study is approved, and you notice the ellipses, there are several other products in that list. Also, and this is very important, I'm a great big nerd and I'm loud, so don't hesitate to reach out to me or to us. Now, I am very lucky that if Ankush manages to join today, you will get to meet him. He is my internal counterpart. He pretty much does everything I do, but on the inside, allowing me to work on the outside. He is an engineering manager at Ericsson, and he is responsible for leading observability and program analysis within Ericsson. Now, that means that he is in charge of making sure that the tracing solutions work inside, that our open source solutions are well aligned inside, and our compiler static analysis stuff also. And this would be the part where he would be speaking. I will be talking, and if he joins, I will hand over. At Ericsson, internal, we all love open source software. It has a huge impact on the development and distribution of the software we depend on today. There have been reports done that show that over 90% of shipped products have an open source component within their supply chain. And yeah, you heard me right. We're talking supply chain. It's one of those talks today. Today, the adoption of open source has been accelerating over the last 10 years. And this is a very good trend for the industry. We're putting our needs in common, and we're lowering our total cost of ownership that way. But not only does it reduce the cost, but it lowers time to market, so we can get better solutions to our customers faster. And on a personal note, it allows staff to worry about much more interesting problems than to re-implement the wheel that someone else did. Now, there is a caveat. When you have, when something becomes more popular, you get more eyes on it. Now, Mike Milenkovich jokes that FOSS is free like a puppy. Yeah, you have to take care of it. So in open source, you have these vulnerabilities, just like in internal software. Like basically, it's someone that wrote code to serve their needs. And if we use it differently, we could have these vulnerabilities. And we have to find and fix these vulnerabilities in our ecosystem. And hunting down bugs, even if you have the greatest tools in the world, like Trace Compass, can be frustrating. So imagining opening up your laptop one day and you just had a really good Thanksgiving meal. Your dopamine levels are like up to 11, and your endorphin levels too. Now, with all that, you open your laptop, you see Log4j has just had a vulnerability. Well, I don't know about you, I might close the laptop and take a day off. We have to worry about these things. So let's talk very quickly about indirect dependencies in FOSS and in OSS, and what we could call transient dependencies. So the log4shell attack left many enterprises scrambling to identify where they have log4j. And quite often, you can have packages that depend on each other. So you can have package A that depends on B that depends on C. Now, when you have that kind of dependency, you can effectively say that A depends on C. And in this academic example, it's trivial. But take a look below, and you will see the two kind of clouds, which are directed cyclical graphs of dependencies. This shows a much more realistic view of what your dependencies look like. And it becomes a lot more complicated to handle when you're doing something like that. Many organizations don't even have the in-depth view of what's going on. Ericsson, we're pretty good. We have, because we are following the executive order, we are going to be delivering our SPOMs. But these dependencies increase the complexity, and having someone follow these, it's an n-squared problem, or it could be even higher. So you're jumping down that rabbit hole of, where did this code come from? I don't remember importing it. So who is responsible for this security? Now, we've heard this erroneous view that if you develop secure code, your product is secure. But going back to the title, Theia is not an island. Theia has dependencies. I mean, even Heartbleed, or not Heartbleed, Spectre, you can have hardware level vulnerabilities. So not only is it out of scope, but the sheer amount of these vulnerabilities make the problem very complex. Developers don't have control over the transitive dependencies that often. I mean, I could have scanned library A, and when I approved it, it didn't have a dependency on library B. Then library B comes in the next version. Most developers are not asked to develop the risk, to evaluate the risks of these third-party dependencies either. And securing the ecosystem, securing your entire supply chain is absolutely essential if we want to take advantage and leverage the superior FOSS components out there. So how do we secure our ecosystem? There are 3 steps, really. We need to secure our OSS production. And that means focus on preventing security defects in the code of the open source packages and basically controlling which open source package comes in. So that leads to an in-house marketplace. You want to improve the vulnerability discovery and remediation. Basically, the vulnerabilities are going to exist. We need to discover them and either fix them or accept the risk because we realize that the way we use the software is not going to be dangerous at that point. And we need to reduce the patching time or the response time. Basically, shorten the window of opportunity where that attack surface comes. So this leads to the question, why an in-house marketplace? I did say in-house, and this talk is about OpenVSX. Well, Ericsson has very different needs from the, or it has what I would call a superset of needs of what is available in open source right now. We have a privacy policy that's different from others. We have security policies. We have license policies and license compliance policies. We have trade compliance policies. And, we're a multinational company, so this whole trade compliance thing is actually really, really important. And finally, when we deliver to a company, when we deliver to a client, and even when we deliver internally, we have service level agreements. So if we go back and we look at the problem for OpenVSX, and why do we have OpenVSX? Why do we have marketplaces to begin with? I think it's very fair to say that everyone wants to save money. And this is a very good thing. You want to take your time and spend it on things you're really good at and let other people spend their time on things they're really good at. So, the solution is you can let someone else do the thing they're good at. Apple is leveraging the App Store for that. Valve has made a marketplace and they are leveraging Steam for that. And VS Code lets anyone make an extension or plugin and add that functionality to them through the VS Code marketplace. To repeat, this is a very good thing. It's a separation of concerns. We get to take advantage of the community. There are very, very few downsides. But marketplaces are not easy. You have to ask yourself, what kind of marketplace do you want? And this is something that is looked at very often. Our marketplace, do you want a top-down marketplace where there's a place for everything and a thing for every place? And you get to have that one architect that decides what goes where? Or do you want the bottom-up approach like a bazaar, where everyone comes in, it's a confluence of all these different vendors and they all bring up their own solution and the best solutions get to the top? How can we bring these marketplaces on premises, considering all the requirements mentioned earlier? What is under your control? What is not under your control? You need to know if you can control a given marketplace or if you can control what is being offered. And then, how can we make the marketplaces compliant with our local requirements? To go back to the bazaar, let's say that it's illegal to sell cookies. How do you make sure there are no cookie vendors in the bazaar? So, to recap, marketplaces, and they very often go to the bazaar or bottom-up model, have to contend with many licenses. They have to contend with community-driven quality control. Now, to go back to the licenses, I want to give an example. There's the Buy Me a Beer public license. It's a really fun one. Basically, you like the code, you buy the person a beer, and you're even. What if the person is based in Antarctica? Now, Ericsson's a multinational company. We have to follow the license agreements. So we would have to send an expedition to Antarctica to buy someone a beer. This becomes infeasible. So we cannot accept certain licenses, even if they sound benign on paper. In terms of community-driven quality control, maybe someone thinks that null pointer exception is the standard way of getting out of a loop. We can't really accept that and deliver that to our clients. We cannot accept that and deliver it to our users. Community-driven security controls. Once again, security can be an afterthought for a one-person team somewhere, again, in Antarctica. Community-enforced privacy control. There's no standard for privacy yet that we can follow. For these, and in fact, some plugins are just flat out spyware. So we need to make sure that we are following our best guidelines on this. And we have to remember that everyone that contributes a plugin, they're not making a plugin for you. They are making a plugin and sharing it. You have to determine if this is a good plugin for you. So if you want a too long didn't listen, caveat emptor. So let's revise this problem statement from an Ericsson perspective. Ericsson is a telecom company that absolutely and positively depends on software. We would not be able to deliver anything without software. Ericsson needs to give its developers good software so that they can get their job done. And VS Code is good. But VS Code is not exactly compliant to Ericsson needs. This brings the question, what about Theia, CodeOSS, Theia, VS Codium, or Theia? Well, if you look at the license agreement for the VS Code marketplace, it prohibits using it for anything but VS Code, including Theia. So we need to make our own marketplace. And so just a little reminder, if you think that Theia is an island, it's not an island. It said so in the title. But Theia, without any plugins, is basically about as useful as Notepad. but with the plugins, it is glorious. Enter Eclipse OpenVSX. Now, the elevator pitch for OpenVSX is that it is an open source registry for VS Code extensions, and it can be used for by any development environment that supports such extensions, including Theia. And so, in plain English, it's a marketplace that allows you to download plugins to Theia, VS Codium, Theia, CodeOSS, or Theia. And it is hosted by eclipse.org. Fun fact, I've heard, and I need to have this confirmed in writing, but that 40% of the bandwidth of the Eclipse Foundation goes towards VSX at this point. So here are some fun facts. The OpenVSX registry has, as of last week, 2,200 plugins in it, or a little more. It takes a massive amount of the Eclipse Foundation bandwidth. And in open source, the most popular plugin is Jupyter. You may be thinking, why Jupyter? Remember those dependencies I was talking about earlier? Python depends on Jupyter. So because of that, you can install Jupyter for Jupyter, or you can install Python and get Jupyter. And internally, we have a demo VSX. So I'm going to call it closed VSX for now. And that one, its most popular plugin is a document archiver. Why am I bringing that up? I just want to remind people. Ericsson is playing with open source. We are working well with the community, I find, but we have different needs. And we all have different needs, and we are at that meeting point for this. So, Eclipse OpenVSX allows all of these IDEs to handle the plugins, and it has some really cool, unique selling points. Its design is non-monolithic, which means you can proxy it. It will soon allow better user access control. It can allow internal plugins to not be upstreamed. It does take a bit of finagling still. And this is the most important one, the most important feature, and I need to highlight it. It is truly open source. It is part of a vendor-neutral foundation. What does that mean? Let's say that Typefox or Eclipse Source decide to put a patch up. As an Eclipse developer, I can't block it because it comes from someone else. Even though, honestly, I would never do that to either of those two vendors. They're awesome. So what needs to be done in OpenVSX? So this is our basic gap analysis, and you'll notice it's a lot bigger than the Community Day one. More data came out from the studies. So the first one is the most important. We absolutely, totally need OAuth support. Right now, OpenVSX is built using GitHub authentication in mind. We need to be more generic. We want to improve the client UX. That means searching, ordering, filtering, and on metadata. For example, I want to filter out so that we only have EPL2 licensed plugins. We can't do that yet, as far as I know. Interfacing to different validators. We want to be able to have a pipeline where we are able to get plugins and make sure that they are good beforehand. And that leads to what's the most primordial step? We need to have signed builds. We need to be able to validate that the plugin we got was not some malicious injected Trojan of sorts. And we definitely want to be able to replicate the data. We want to be able to mirror the VSXs. And there are workarounds that do exist, especially with Theia. But we want to be able to air gap our solutions, and we want to have this better query support. So here's what we need to do internally. And I'm going to be using internally with finger quotes, because if we have a similar setup on the external side, we are collaborating on that. We need to set up an internal OpenVSX. Again, internal. And it's in the pipeline. And we need to have a means to work well with internal auditing tools. You know, if we can work on Eclipse Dash and stuff to work well together, yes, absolutely. We need to automate the software compliance. Now, here's a little fact. Ericsson has well over 10,000 developers in it. And just imagine that 10,000 developers launch their build at exactly the same time, and every one of those builds queries open our internal VSX. Well, that's a denial of service attack. And if the VSX goes down because you queried it too much, that's a security threat. And I need to repeat this. Security threats are not always malicious. Using the tool properly, but if the tool doesn't scale, is a security risk and it needs to be mitigated. So we need to make sure that our own custom-made plugins don't bring down OpenVSX or internal VSX. We need to investigate air gapping for security purposes, both on an SLA level and on a malicious level. And again, I want to repeat, all of the chain of validation is internal for now, but we are going to be leveraging more FOSS software if possible. We want to reduce our cost of ownership, but we want to reduce your cost of ownership too. I believe it's Maximilian that said yesterday that there's a certain mass of intelligence out there. We want to leverage it, but we want to give back and we want to contribute to that mass of intelligence out there. So here is the updated pipeline of what's coming up. Now, you'll see it's a little different from the Theia Dev Day. And basically, you have your Theia in the top left corner. And that Theia can either go to restricted plugins, which are the internal ones that are developed internally and that passed all the security compliance in its own pipeline, or to other plugins. And the other plugins, when you want to go to them, it's going to go to a certified archive. Now, the certified archive in our case would probably be Artifactory, but we want to make sure that things could be open. Now, you have an operator that would be doing a community health check. Why? Let's say that the sole maintainer of a plugin is a person that lives in Australia in a van and practices snake juggling. That could be a community risk. Once you have your community health check, you basically want to take that. Once it passes, you take your plugin, go down the pipeline, make sure your build is signed, make a software composition analysis check on it for licenses, trade compliance, and stuff, and then register it in a vulnerability database so that if you have a CVE, you get to fix it fast by upgrading or downgrading as need be. This leads to a question. Are we alone? Well, it depends. If we want to work alone, I'm sure that you guys can accommodate. We want to work with you. We want to know who's interested in collaborating with us. And let's get together and make a roadmap together that would have our common needs. That way we can prioritize properly. And I would suggest going to the CDT, Cloud Dev Tools workgroup for that. Now, what are the next steps? Internally, we started in October. So we're trying to understand our total costs. And we are going to be very transparent with this. But we have to also understand our opportunity. There is a lot of things that are happening now, and this is not just securing OpenVSX. In my opinion, this is securing marketplaces in general. I haven't seen it done yet, and we would be the first. We're the leaders in that. I need to highlight, we need brains more than money at this point on this problem. So, yeah, I want to be clear. We're not alone. We want to work together. And many companies have expressed similar interests. We want to be there. We want to be very present. Let's do it. So thank you very much. I'm going to open the floor to questions. I see there are 2 questions. And 1 minute. Would monetization be allowed for developers to contribute to the marketplace? Why not? Yes. That is not against any policy that I've seen so far. And in fact, we want to pay for certain plugins. How can OpenVSX catch up with all the Team Essential extensions readily available in VS Code or CodeOSS? At their latest version, a moving target, and also from a security and licensing perspective. Whew. Okay, that's a great question. A lot of context. We cannot. You cannot, because they are not doing any security or licensing compliance. We need to do that. But we can automate everything possible to make the gap narrower. And Thomas, if you're reading the chat, that's a really good question. I'm not going to repeat it out loud. Any other questions? No? Let's wrap it up.